Welcome to Out of the Box with Christine, the podcast for conscious entrepreneurs. Are you willing to step into your greatness? Are you ready to shine? Well, get ready, Truth Seeker. You're in for an amazing ride. And now, here's the host of the show, Christine Blosdale.
Welcome back, everyone, to Out of the Box with Christine. I am, of course, your host, Christine Blosdale. And today we're going to be talking about getting out of our own way and stop listening to that little voice inside of our head saying that we're, nothing and that we're not successful and we're not worthy. My guest today is the incredible Todd Nyholm, who is the founder of Nitality, the Nitality Method. And he's also an author. And Todd, I love the title of your books. I have to say, when I saw the titles, I was like, I've got to get you on the show. His first book was Food, Why Do You Trouble Me So Much? And his most current book is Brain, Why Do You Trouble Me So Much? I want to welcome you to Out of the Box with Christine so we could talk about food and our brains and everything in between. Welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me. And those titles still make me laugh. So I'm glad they touch other people too,
Well, they're clever. They're very clever titles. And it, as someone who's in business and as someone who coaches entrepreneurs, that's really important, is to grab somebody's attention right away, so that they want to learn a little bit more. Let's talk about, you've become a writer. Was that writing process something that was relatively easy for you or difficult, would you say?
No, the writing itself came pretty easy to me because I had so much I wanted to say and it just kind of flowed out of me, and so my writing process is a bit weird. Like I write on my phone and check out lines, or when I'm walking around the park, or in between clients when I'm working at the clinic. And so a lot of it comes kind of formed to me, and I was able to lay it all out. And so I've got another manuscript written and I'm started on the fourth one. And so it just kind of flows for me so far pretty well.
The creative process is interesting, isn't it? Because I've written my own book, and then I'm a co-author in a few books. And yeah. I find that when that inspiration hits and you can just flow to go with it, just to do it. And then there's other days where you're like, I just can't. So listening to that is important. Now, you're a somatic therapist. Can you explain to our wonderful audience what a somatic therapist is and does?
Sure. And it's a term that one of my teachers started using like 20 years ago, because we have so many methods that we use with different names that are long that no one knows, like visceral manipulation and cranial sacral therapy and structural integration and acupressure and all these different things. But ultimately I'm working with somebody and I'm using my hands and knuckles and fingers and elbows and working through the tissue on their body, and I'm working with their nervous system. And I really talk to them quite often because I like to see what's going on mentally and emotionally and its connection to the body, which is a lot of listening. Or, when you get used to how someone feels, you can put your hand on their back and ask them, hey, how's work going? And you can tell all kinds of things about what's going on and what's causing their pain. And a lot of people kind of miss the connection, but it's really a deep one.
And have you always been, because your presence, your energy is one of a healer and wanting to help people. Have you always, when you were little, did you see like a little bird on the side of the road and wanted to help heal them? Or is this something that has come into your life relatively new?
No, I think I've always had it, and I've always been aimed that way a little bit, and as I learned some things and as I was working on healing myself, because I've had a lot of health problems and a lot of trauma. And so there's a lot of things that I needed to work on. So I think it made me almost extremely compassionate in a way, and wanting to help and learning a bunch of methods and making my own methods to help people was kind of a big thing for me. I don't like to see much suffering, and if I can help it in some way, that's kind of a big thing for me.
You have the capacity of empathy, as my dear friend Dr. Judith Orloff says, who I call her the queen of empathy. It's a beautiful gift, but it can sometimes also become overwhelming because you see so much of the suffering in the world and you want to help so many people, but then also energy vampires can take advantage of that as well. What do you do to ground yourself and protect yourself around those energy vampires?
Yeah, and I think the first thing is understanding that you need to do it, because a lot of people are really empathetic. We have these like problems with boundaries in a way, and we want to help everybody and listen to all their stories. And you realize some people are just draining you and they're not actually looking to change anything, right? And once you see that, there's a lot of little practices you can do, one of which is really paying attention to yourself when you're around them. So you notice it in your own body, you feel yourself shrinking up, or you see it in your mind, and it brings up all these interesting mental and emotional things. You're like, why am I starting to think this way? I don't usually think this way. And once you see it, it's easier to block the exchange. And then after that, there's a lot of neat things you can do with like breathing techniques and kind of cleaning yourself off. And one of my Mongolian friends taught me a method about knocking on wood, so you just, after you're done with someone, you knock on wood and you put all the energy into that you don't need, just little things like that.
Oh, I like that. Actually, I like that. Yeah, I know, because a long time ago in another lifetime, I was a personal fitness coach, and I got my massage license because I was like, well, I can offer that as an extra service. After I work you out, then I can massage you. And and I recall like feeling all that stress and ickiness. And what I would do is I would like shake my hands and shake my arms to just get it off of me. And that helped a little bit. But the something that you said earlier, and I think this is really important, especially with a lot of people who are in the wellness industry, personal development, but also the healing arts, and that's, be it Reiki, massage, the work that you do, is also, if you're someone who has suffered from trauma at a young age, you can go in a couple different ways, right? You can repeat that kind of behavior, or you can want to heal from it and heal others. Can you talk about any of that? Do you feel comfortable talking about any of the things that you had gone through and where it took you?
Yeah, it's interesting when you go through difficult things, like where people end up, because some people run from it, and other people, like me, for whatever reason, we just face it and we're like, hey, let's handle this, and if you don't, it can eat your lunch over time, and so I had a couple major traumas when I was a kid. And one was I got a tick bite, and it gave me a bunch of weird infections that I couldn't name until about 4 or 5 years ago, because I went through like 50 doctors, and I finally found one that could help me. And after it had weakened my immune system, a bunch of other infections. So at one point I had like 12 infections going on, and some of the original ones were like Lyme and Bartonella and things like that. And then also when I was a kid, there was this is a bit of an intense subject, but a serial killer that lived in my neighborhood. And he had a bit of a fascination with me. And so watching him and some of the way he manipulated me and everyone around me was quite educational, at a young age, watching some of that. And he was a genius and great at manipulating people. And so that really opened my eyes to some things that I think most people wouldn't see in that way. But it gave me an insight into life and humans that I think a lot of people don't have because they didn't go through that. So if I can help people like me who have been through some stuff, then I'm going to do it any way I can, or kind of die trying, as it were. But I have lots of wonderful methods that are useful. Even if you can't control what's happening to your body, you can still work with your mind and your emotions, and you can still do things like that. So a lot of the methods that are in my books, you can do even in the worst circumstances. When you're so sick you can't get out of bed, or you're in some horrible situation like I was a few times, the methods still work. And for me, that was important to share with other people. So.
And that is so, that is so beautiful, because also I think when we are victims of either abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, as children, we do have this amazing ability to survive, right? And to adapt and to say, okay, this is happening. But as we get older, we hold on to those things, and especially in our bodies. I mean, the mind is one thing, and that is something that is a vast territory. It's like as deep as space. But
Right.
When it comes to our body holding on to those things, and I know that the body holding on to those memories can create all types of havoc. And later on in life, cancer, different diseases and illnesses. How do you connect with people, especially in their body, when they are holding on to those traumas?
It's one of the best things about my work, because I actually have my hands on people, right? And I'm working through their tissue, and I'm following their breath, and I'm watching what they're talking about and what things they can't talk about. And I notice certain areas of their body that are absolutely clamped down for no good reason. So they're laying on a massage table, it's warm in there, and I'm like, why are they so tense over here? And as you talk to them, a lot of times those things come out through just me working with them, even if we're not talking about anything like it. And then they'll bring it up and they'll say, well, this happened to me. And, we'll work through that part of their body, particularly with certain kinds of abuse, it really shows up in certain areas. So for me, I have this wonderful place where I get to work with a little bit of both, right, through someone's body. But I wanted to be able to help more people. So if I can only see, let's say, 10 people in a day, with a book, I could reach 100,000 people in a day or something. And so that was for me kind of why I'm branching out. And then because of my somatic therapy background, I think even within my books, I write about the body some way and how to work with it and different methods of going through your body mentally and emotionally with your attention to change things as well.
And you have a podcast?
I haven't started a podcast
you
yet.
need to have a podcast.
Yeah. I've been doing more with YouTube so far. And so I've been kind of working my way up because I'm not always super comfortable with being on camera and things like that, but I wanted to because I think I can really reach a lot more people. And so over the last couple of years, I started with writing because that was easiest for me. Then I did the audio book, and then I started doing audio things. And now I'm getting more into the visual application of things, but I'm going to try to stack it up as much as I can, as I get better with it. So.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really key with, and again, with conscious entrepreneurs, and especially those that are in the healing field, is that they've got this beautiful gift and nobody knows about them, right? So right, yeah. I encourage my clients. I have a wonderful therapist in Los Angeles who just recently finished her coaching, my coaching program. She finished it, and she just launched her audio podcast and then her podcast on YouTube. And she was like crying the other day. She was so emotional because she's getting to reach a lot more people than she could in just her private practice. Yeah. And that's what's really important as well. And to get over a lot of people, doesn't matter if you're a conscious entrepreneur or not, have that, what do they call it? The imposter syndrome. Right.
And I definitely have struggled with that quite a bit, but once I'm actually talking to people, I'm in the middle of it, it's great. And when I'm teaching things, and I taught at a college for a while, and I got used to, lecturing and things. So it's just a little different, the visual component that I know, maybe 100,000 people could see that. And you're like, kind of, get to thinking.
But think about it the other way. Maybe 100,000 people can hear this and see this and get inspired or motivated. Right. Yeah. That's so the things that you do to keep, because that could be a little bit exhausting. I could understand dealing with people's emotions and their physical body. So what are some other things that you do to keep yourself rejuvenated and positive? What are some other things, little tricks that you do?
Yeah, so I developed a whole series of methods that work through me emotionally and mentally and physically. And it's some of the basis of that Nitality method. And I'm starting to write the book now to teach that because they're a little complicated to explain all at once, because I made them as thoroughly as I could. But I run through those every day, often after when I'm leaving, and some of the base of that method is, I kind of mentioned it before, is putting yourself in your own attention field so that you know what's going on. And that really does strengthen you because you're getting some of your own energy back, as opposed to dumping it all into your client, which is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if you've ever played a third-person shooter game where you can toggle in and out between you and the character. So you don't see anything, and then you see the character some of the time. And so it's like putting yourself in the frame. And once you do that, you start to realize when people are draining you, but also when you're emotional and when you're really getting worn down. And then you can stack methods on top of it. You're like, okay, I can do this particular breathing exercise, which a good one to start with is sort of gulping air 30 times. So you get a whole bunch of oxygenation all at once. And that's great when you're struggling to get through a day, because you're on person number 8 and person number 7 was really having a rough time. And now you're like, oh man, how am I gonna get through these other 2 people? And you go in the back for 5 minutes and you do some of those things. But it helps a lot if you can keep those methods in your mind as you're working with people, which is one of the things I'd really like to give, because it's profoundly changed me in a lot of ways.
And so if people want to learn more about the Nitality method, they can just go to your website, correct?
Yeah, it's a great place.
Okay. And then we'll put in the show notes the link to Todd's website, nitality.com. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll also put links to your books, to both of your books. How do you say the full title? Because it's great. Brain.
Brain, why do you trouble me so much?
Yes. And Food, why do you trouble me so much? You picked two very, very popular subjects.
It's a good place to start.
Yes, it's a great place to start. So people can go to the website and check out the different methods. And so do you offer coaching? Do you do group or live courses or anything like that?
So I just started developing some of that. If someone wanted to do some coaching, I could set that up really quickly because that would be easy to do. But I'm kind of phasing everything in as I was going through it, and writing and working my way up and then building the website. And it's been taking me a little bit of time because I'm doing it all on my own, and that kind of thing, and having to learn as I go. But yeah, there's lots of ways to reach me there. And I plan to just throw a bunch of stuff up on YouTube and on TikTok. And then I'll definitely set up some specific courses and some workbooks and things like that to work through some of the exercises. So.
Beautiful. Well, we'll make sure that also we include your YouTube channel so people can find you, since this podcast is also put up, published on YouTube. We'll make sure that we include that. And I like the fact too that so many of us as conscious entrepreneurs, as people in business, we're doing everything. I'm not super tech savvy, but I created my own website and designed it and everything like that, and updated as much as I can. But we do have, as entrepreneurs, we do seem to have to wear a lot of hats. So I'm wondering what of all the things, because there's so many things that you need to do. I mean, my goodness, there's business, there's marketing, there's building out the website, there's building programs. What are some things that you really enjoy? And then what are some things that you're not that crazy about, but you do anyway?
Yeah, so I do enjoy somewhat the different things. Like my mind likes that. Like I'm going to do some marketing and some advertising, and I'm going to make some videos, and I'm going to work with some people directly, and I'm going to write. But most of all, I like helping people do better. If I can find some direct way into that, I really get a lot out of that. What is tricky for me most is like keeping track of all the different things, because I got the editors are emailing me, and some of the marketing stuff is editing me, and some of the podcasters, and it's like I look at it and then I go take care of 5 people, and it just kind of can evaporate. And then I get home and I'm like, oh, I need to call X person back or Y person back. And I started to really understand why people have assistants, just to help put all that stuff together.
Yes. Yeah. They delegate,
It's
unless they're like a control freak like myself, and I go, I can't delegate this because nobody knows except for me how to do that. But it is I equate it to spinning plates. I don't know, long time ago, there's like the Ed Sullivan Show, and they'd have somebody on there spinning a plate on a on a long pole. They'd be spinning a plate, then they put another one. It was like a wooden stick, and then they'd spin another plate, and then they'd spin another plate, and then they had to keep spinning all of these plates. And that's how I equate being an entrepreneur is, because you do have to kind of be a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades in order to keep it going. But how great that you're writing, you're getting published, you are out there on YouTube, you're doing everything to get the word out to people. And we'll make sure that we send some people your way as well through this podcast and YouTube channel. So everybody, make sure you check out Todd's website. It's nitality.com. Todd Nyholm is his name. We're going to make sure we have the links to his books, links to his website and his YouTube channel, so you can check them out and learn a little bit more about the Nitality method and healing and becoming the best that you can be, not only for your business, not only for yourself, but for your family and your loved ones as well. So thank you so much for being with me today, Todd. I really appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime to Out of the Box.
I'd love to do it again. Yeah, I enjoyed talking with you.
You're a love. Oh my goodness, you're a beautiful angel. Okay, we'll have all the links in the show notes. If you want more information about this podcast, you can go to outoftheboxwithchristine.com. And if you want more information about me, go to christineblosdale.com. All those links will be in the show notes. And as I always say, remember to think outside that damn box. Bye for now.